What's up everyone, I'm Ignatius, and this is meant to be your ultimate guide to running Expedition Logbooks in Path of Exile 2. I'm fairly new to the PoE scene, only 2 years old. If you notice anything that is incorrect or could be improved, please call me out in the comments. It's part of why I'm here, is to learn. I stream regularly on Twitch, come find me, and come join our Discord and let's do some PoE stuff together. Now, let's get into logbooks. Okay, first section of this video, I wanted to discuss why farm logbooks. There's a lot of different things you can farm in the game. They vary in terms of diversity of play, benefits to your character like XP, the difficulty, amount of return on investment, and the high roll chance for what you're farming. Those are the different ways I assess options to do in the game, and really I like to do and experience everything. But for me, logbooks are checking all of the boxes. So part one for why to farm logbooks is Olroth's unique loot table, and just after this section I'm going to have a section that goes over that unique loot table, talks about each of the different items and why that's a huge point of investment. I think a lot of people just re-roll books and farm Olroth and profit a bunch, so that's like one approach. My approach is a little bit different. I like to do the whole logbook for all sorts of reasons. The main reason might surprise you, and it is white boots. Because Expedition is an 82 level area, the white boots that drop are eye level 82, and that is really important. And I'm going to explain why. So if you're not familiar with Craft of Exile, it's a very helpful website for understanding the affixes on your items, and not necessarily just for crafting, even just for realizing what zones to farm and why. So if you come into Craft of Exile and we click on boots, and we'll just take int boots, here's the important thing about eye level 82. On the prefixes, the most important mod of any pair of boots, which is movement speed, is the only speed modifier on a pair of boots. Also, that speed modifier has equal weights in terms of the tiers. So if you roll speed, you have a 1 in 3 chance to get 30 or 35 movement speed, which immediately makes your boots a viable candidate for a sale. Now if it's an eye level 82 boot, then you have a 1 in 6 to roll 35. And as soon as you roll 35, you've got a great pair of boots. Now I won't go over a whole set of crafting approach for boots, but I will say that after you get 35, you add one more blue mod, and then you can use a greater essence of ruin to guarantee a roll of chaos resistance. So for these two reasons, white boots are very valuable and they're a wonderful thing to farm. Based on the math, every logbook makes you money if you farm the white boots. Your return on investment is guaranteed within every logbook, and it's massive over the course of a lot of logbooks. So right now, a quad of white boots, which is 144 pairs of boots, sells for 10 div per quad minimum. I mean, these go fast. They sell them right away. They are worth more at times, depending on how many people are playing and the market for boots. But this is like 0.07 divine per boot. Current exalted div is like about 130, so it's about 9 exalt per boot. I don't think there's a run where I don't find at least 4. I believe 4 to 8 is a reasonable approximate range. Sometimes it's more than 8. But that is to say, if we say it's 6 boots per run on average, just from white boots, you get 54 exalt per run. And the logbooks themselves cost 10 to 13 exalt each. So not hard math. You're profiting every single logbook just from white boots. You can expect to fill a whole quad in about 24 logbooks, give or take. And again, those sell for 10 divine minimum. Now, outside of the Olroth loot and outside of the white boots, there's a lot of other things that are great about the Expedition Zone, with the chests and the monsters being a high monster level. A couple that I want to point out are, of course, other bases. So you're in eye level 82 area, you can see eye level 83 items. This accounts for like the chance to roll any affix. It's really awesome. But also I want to call out Flasks and Charms. Again, Craft of Exile. If you look at all the things you can get, we'll go to Flasks. Life and Mana have kind of the same base affixes, so it's a good example either way. But if you look at the most important role, which is how much are you recovering, eye level 83 is the only way you can get that roll, that tier 1 or tier 8 in PoE2 speak roll. So flasks can be really good. If you look at suffixes, you have another eye level 83 mod, which is reduced charges per use. Now, if you roll these in combination, you've got a great flask. And this season, I believe I sold a flask for 7 divines. Last season, I sold one for 10 divines. I just rolled one in the last logbook that looks like this. 76% amount recovered and 26% increased charges. The pricing thing says the cheapest with those is 5 div. I've got mine up for 3 div. I like to sell things fast. I do think that will sell. And then the other is charms. So you can come in here and explore charms in Craft of Exile, look at the different kinds of charms. But again, like increased duration, right now with the new buffs, guard during effect, increased charges, reduced charges per use, which is probably the most important charm property. All of these can roll really nicely in this area where the charms are high item level. And then the other reason I really like to farm logbooks, aside from like the guaranteed ROI and the chance to high roll Olroth loot, is that you get really good experience in terms of your character. I've gone all the way to level 95 in logbooks from level 90. And the gameplay is very dynamic. Like, no two logbooks are the same. There's a lot of decisions to make. Even the combat is very dynamic. Even the Olroth fights are very unique each time. Whereas, like, you know, the primary reason to target farm Expedition really is Olroth, the pinnacle boss of the Expedition Logbook. And I first want to go over, like, Olroth's loot table and talk about which items are valuable and what to look out for, what to get excited about. And then I'll talk about how to find Olroth in your maps, chance to find Olroth in your map. And then I'll talk a little bit about the strategy, my own approach for fighting Olroth, some tips and tricks to be more successful in that battle, which, depending on the strength of your character and what season it is and how powerful things are, he can be a pretty tricky fight. Okay, so first, loot table. So Olroth has, I think now, 6 uniques that he can target drop. 2 of them, at least in both seasons, have been pretty valueless. The Keeper of the Ark and the Olroth Vasara. I do think both of these could have use in future seasons, but not very good in this one. And then the other 4 all have value. Some of them, the value is more reliable, and some of them you kind of have to work or investigate whether there is value. So this Fallen Shield is the next most common thing to drop. And in some seasons, this shield is going to be really powerful and really amazing because of this affix here. It says block chances lucky. It rolls the block twice, takes the one that blocks. It allows you to have a max block chance that is pretty unrealistic. Now, you can also vol this item to basically improve the downside of the object, which is a decrease to your overall max block chance. Makes a character have to work harder to max out the block. And you can see the Vald ones are 11 div, 12 div. So if you find one that has a bad max block roll, you'll see these ones where, you know, they've been Vald and they're really bad, they're worth nothing. You can always quality them up, give them socket, and hit the vol. Even use an Omen of Corruption if they're cheap, and maybe you get this high roll. And then also a minus 10, at least this season, has been worth around 1 div, so not a bad drop. The next one that has a lot of variance is the Heroic Tragedy Timeless Jewel. Definitely not going to go into what these jewels do, and I don't fully understand them myself, but they have to do with an interaction on your tree. Basically, if you were to socket in the tragedy here, it would change all of these notable passives to entirely different notable passives. So there are some jewels that for some builds and for some role of the jewel, they are extremely valuable, and then there are others which are totally not valuable. And I find it difficult to figure out what you have, so I grab them and I drop them in a tab that's 10 divines, bring it down to a 5 divine, bring it down to a 3 divine, and just kind of let the audience of the trade market tell me whether my jewel is valuable or not. But that is to say, there is potential for massive high roll on this jewel, many hundreds of divines for certain ones, because they are very rare to find the one you need. Okay, then the two very reliable drops from Olroth. So Olroth's Resolve in both seasons so far in PoE 2. This has been a very valuable item. This season, it is a minimum 9 div, maximum 13 div guaranteed drop. And the variance on how much div is in this increased charges per use. Basically, if this number is lower, it is worth more because it's consuming fewer charges every use. Once again, this property goes down to 100, and then it's very valuable. You can see like around, I think real value right now is probably around 13 div. And then if you have a bad roll, I'm not sure why these are up higher. Where's like a reasonable, I'm going to say like 9 div is like the reasonable amount for one that's been corrupted to, or just rolled up to a higher charges per use. Last drop added in .2 is the Olroth Reliquary Key. Very exciting drop. Only found it once in probably 100 or 150 logbooks, but I think I got 6 divine for it. So yeah, another very reliable drop there on the table. Okay, moving on to how to find Olroth and what to do as you work your way down to him. So when you get into your map, when you get into your logbook, the easiest way to be sure is to look for the skull up here in the mini-map. And if it's there, then he's somewhere on your logbook. You can also open the overlay map and find the skull there. And then I would recommend the very first thing you want to do is do a bomb chain that goes directly to Olroth. You could, then continue out your chain and plan to do the rest of the logbook when Olroth is done. But anyone can die in any logbook. And so you want a bomb chain to Olroth, hide on the other side of the door, and drop in there as soon as it is open. So that way you get... Okay, I've set up my bomb chain to Olroth. I wanted to talk a little bit about the strategy of this initial bomb chain. It's not like if you do this wrong, you'll die every time. It's not even like if you do this wrong, you'll die some of the time. But if you do this wrong, you might die like one time out of a large set of runs, just because sometimes the runic monsters pop out, do crazy things. Sometimes you hit a lag spike, whatever. It's worth noting that the Remnants do not apply to Olroth, so you don't have to worry about that. It's also worth noting that they changed the way XP works in Pinnacle content, and in Expedition, you do get experience and you lose experience in the actual Expedition map. So when you're up here, if dying is a chance, you might turn on an amelioration. But when you're down in Olroth, it will use your amelioration and waste it. So I use a resurgence down there, which will restore my life in ES if for some reason he gets me down low. Okay, now let me blow this chain and just kind of show you what it looks like as it detonates and I hide on the building. So you can see these are blowing up. The monsters are coming out really fast. And they do have a couple of really quick abilities which can one-shot. We're just hiding right here. Here comes our bomb. We're just going to click right away as soon as we see it. Boom. Down. No way of dying if you do it that way. Here are some of my tips and tricks for this combat. So number one is that the environmental effects in this zone are what are going to get you, and they are constant. There is lots of chilled ground that has a strong damage over time. There are lots of cold effects coming from Olroth, and then there is this swirling orb thing which launches some frost nukes and then casts this massive row of damaging frost across the middle. So the environmental effects are the things that you really have to get used to, and it's a very dynamic thing. They are not fixed. They are different in every battle. In general with these, here's my big point of advice. Stay out of the middle and stay away from the swirling, circling relic. That relic will shoot a random like frostbolt beam, and if you're close to the wall or close to it, you won't see it coming, and it can one-shot you. As far as Olroth himself, he's got kind of a long charge-up move. It's pretty obvious. He holds his sword in the air. He is going to basically detonate a massive frost bomb in front of him. So when he's charging that up, he's very vulnerable from behind. It's good to know. A tip is to carry some charms for freeze and slow. So I have a thawing charm and I have a silver charm. At one point I had 2 silver charms, so that way I never got too slowed down in this fight, but now I'm kind of strong enough where I don't really need that. There are 2 phases, so you're going to get him down to no life, and then he's going to regenerate back up to like 3/4 life for a second phase. the environmental effects continue while he is regenerating, so watch out. You do get random runic monsters out of these portals, so those can be helpful. And then don't chill out after he dies. The environmental effects continue, and I have died one time after killing Olroth, so that's a real tragedy. I do not recommend that. Okay, now we're going to do a fight, and hopefully some of these tips will apply, and you can kind of get a sense of how I navigate the combat. I'll try and narrate it as I go. Alright, so he's coming out. I'm going to charge up my Tailwind. You can see this mean runic thing right there. I like to stand on the opposite side of it. And I'm going to try and get an early poke on him and generate some frenzy charges. There we go. Okay. There's his big charge up shield thing. This is where he's totally vulnerable from behind. And again, I'm staying like kind of on this interior circle of the border and staying out of the middle. He's up against the wall. I'm going to blast him. Good damage there. Here's the Frostbolt beam. More environmental effects. Normally I would do more damage to him right now, but I'm kind of trying to demonstrate what I'm paying attention to. Here's his big charge up again. I can't really get behind him safely. I'm going to stay way out here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get him down to his first phase. Hopefully. You can see I'm taking a lot of damage. A lot of minions are coming in. The environmental effects are getting harder and harder to dodge. There you saw that big Frostbolt beam. That thing can one-shot. It's really powerful. Always keep moving. Stay out of the middle. Stay away from this mean thing right here. Right there we had double AoE frost nukes. There's just so much to watch out for in this zone. Comes his recharge. Gonna boom him. I'm right. There's that boom. See, I dodged that. That might have killed me right there if I didn't dodge that. You want to play it safe. Unlike some of the Pinnacle content, the fight is not going to escalate to a point where you're definitely going to die, like it does for King of the Mists, for instance. So as long as you're being safe and dodging the environmental effects, you're going to be okay. And there we go. Hopefully that was a good example of some of the things that you can kind of look out for and some of the broader strategies for the environmental effects while you fight him. Okay, before we get into actually navigating a logbook with a lot of tips and tricks, I want to just talk in general about Remnants. So Remnants is the buzzword for the little star-looking icon things on the ground in an expedition, and those remnants modify the properties of the monsters and the properties of the loot in your expedition. There's an upside and a downside to every remnant, and there is an Expedition Logbook like affix on the book, which can improve the remnants and add additional suffixes to them, which is really great. I just want to talk about like overall view of remnants, and in case you're not very familiar with them, how they work and which ones to look out for in terms of pros and cons. So first of all, how do they work? The remnants grow the scope of your expedition as they continue to detonate. So each one adds the property of the remnant to all of the monsters and loot from that remnant onward. That is to say, if at bomb number 25 you're blowing up a remnant, the properties of that remnant will only apply to the loot from bomb 25 and on. Conversely, if you find a good remnant at bomb number 1, the properties of that remnant will apply to all of the remaining bombs in the expedition. So in that situation, the remnants you find earlier are more powerful, and the remnants you find later can be irrelevant. All right, so some of the best remnants in the Expedition Logbook. My favorite is Runic Monsters Duplicated. This can double the Runic Rares, which is really powerful. Quant of items in chests is fantastic. That makes us drop more white boots, and we love white boots. And then there's a lot that just increases the overall volume of monsters. There's increased rares, there's increased magics, there's pack size, and then there's XP gain, which I really, really like. I've had logbooks where I've juiced the XP gain up to 800%, and that moves the bar really, really nicely. There's two remnants that I consider bait, and I like to call them out because sometimes, like a bait remnant, like if your character is sometimes not succeeding in logbooks, you just never want to take these because the downsides aren't worth it. The first is artifacts. If you run these, you're going to have so many artifacts, you won't know what to do with them. They're still not really that valuable. The coinage is like somewhat valuable. But yeah, I just find quantum artifacts is not worth it. And then rarity of items and chests. Sounds cool, but I'll say two things about it. Number one, improved rarity theoretically should make the number of white boots we find be less, right? Because we want non-rare boots. And then secondly, the currency chests are just bait in and of themselves. I have pretty much never seen something that great from the currency chests. And I would say like 90 to 95% of the ones I open, just nothing shows up on my loot filter. And I'm even like displaying alks. So yeah, just don't worry about those very much. As far as the downsides, if your character's kind of glassy, look out for these ones. Monster hits can't be evaded. Monster hits are always crits, and then monsters gain % damage of X type. There's also damage penetration, like monsters pen near a fire resist. Those can be scary. And then if you're struggling to clear the logbooks in any ways, watch out for these. Hits on monsters can't be crits. Runics regenerate life per second. And then, of course, the monster immunities, like immune to fire, immune to cold, whatever. Generally, the chest nodes are not that important. Prioritize the armor nodes. Those drop boots. There is a little white star gem node. Those can drop level 20 gems, which are usually pretty good. And again, the currency nodes are just bait. There's random underground areas in the expedition, and the monsters in these areas do not reflect the remnant properties, so it makes them very easy. And they usually drop lots of white boots. So I like those areas. Those are really great. In the next section, I'll go over how to assess the whole map, how to pick remnants, and how to execute the actual expedition run. One thing to note is that when you first open your logbook, you're going to be presented with two different options for basically which logbook map you'd like to load. So your book is going to have two map types. Over time, you'll learn about like the different areas and their layouts and a lot of the kind of micro differences there. Ultimately, they're not that important. What is somewhat important is the modifiers that you pick, and I've kind of put them in order of my favorite to my least favorite. So if you see one, for instance, that has area has an additional underground area, which this one right here has, I'm not totally sure, but I assume that this means that it has a higher chance to roll Olroth, since Olroth is in an underground area. So I always take that if it exists. The next modifier I really like is explosive radius. So this widens, obviously, the radius of your bombs, and in some cases this allows you to get incredible monster density across the logbook, which is really fun, somewhat powerful. The next is placement range and number of explosives. Those are two different modifiers, but if you get those in combination, that can be really helpful for like moving great distances between bombs and maximizing like grabbing multiple remnants and things like that. After those, there are modifiers for additional monsters and additional chests. Having more runic monster flags is really powerful. And then, when you start seeing a lot of these mods in combination with each other, you'll kind of see like how much more powerful one with a certain combination of mods is than another. And it's worth mentioning that when you're buying logbooks, some of your sellers are farming these logbooks with a certain node. And trying to find it here. Where are you? There we go. Detailed records, expedition logbooks found in your maps always have 3 implicit modifiers. So I don't really like pay attention when I buy them or like barter based on this, but like, this book obviously was found without that node selected. And it's not necessarily these ones had this node selected, but a pile with 3 in them is going to like net be more powerful over the course of, a good size of logbooks than one with just 2. And obviously you have more chance to have the like additional underground area and explosive radius, which are really powerful and worth noting. Okay, I wanted to do one narrated example of how to assess your overall logbook map and how to decide your detonation chain and assess your remnants. So we talked about all the different remnants, and what you want and what you don't want can vary based on your character. But in general, when you're starting out, you want to kind of be broad in assessing a path that has a good number of remnants and a lot of open space for flags, and maybe even look to make sure that there are a good number of armor chests, because those are what are going to drop our boots. So on this map, for instance, here's my starting place, and I don't want to go south, because if you look at going south, we probably have more bombs than can combine in this entire area. On Lush Isle in particular, there's always these 2 beach sections, and they are usually really minion flag dense. So I like to work my way up to one of those sections. This one looks like it has a lot more remnants and a lot more armor nodes, so that's probably where I'm going to go. The other thing to look at the start is within your opening bomb area, are there any remnants that are really good? Because if so, then getting that really good remnant as the very first bomb will apply that remnant effect to all of your monsters and chests, depending on what it is. So it can be really nice to start off with a good remnant and then path up to where you want to go. So for this assessment, quantity of artifacts I don't care about. Number of magic monsters actually really nice, but monster hits cannot be crits is really, really bad for me. I'm a crit-based build. Rarity of items in chests, we actually don't want that. We want white boots. We don't want rare boots. Quant from monsters is nice. That's fine. Up here we have quant from monsters and XP, so I kind of want to get up there. Again, artifacts don't care too much. I see a pack size here. So these 3 look like a nice place to start, and then I'm going to wrap my way up to this beach and then probably grab every single flag on the beach. It's also worth noting that after you get a few good remnants under the hood, you really want to prioritize getting flags and chests and not worry too much about additional remnants, because with each new bomb, the remnants are applying to fewer and fewer detonations, which is kind of how this works. So, all right, we're going to start. We're just going to hit this. It's got 4 large flags. It's got a chest. That's fine. Actually, it has 2 chests, armor chest and currency chest. And then we'll come up here and we'll try and get both of those. After you place your bomb, you can hover over right here and see if you got your thing. I notice here I did not get the XP, and I actually really want that. I've been leveling up a lot in Expedition, so I am kind of prioritizing XP a little bit. There we go. Now I got both. Come over here and get pack size. Again, just place my bomb to try and get large red flags and chests if it's possible. Like if it doesn't hurt anything, then I'll do it. Rare monsters, that's an excellent remnant. There's another rare monsters. I bet if I place this differently, I can get both. Here we go. Not waste bombs. Pack size, that's awesome. Another chest. 200 XP, that's awesome. Okay, so right here, we're just a handful of bombs in, and look what we have done. We have 400 XP, 10% quant from monsters, 100% rares, 50% pack size. Those are really, really good bonuses, and we didn't negatively affect chests or anything. And though my downsides of the remnants are really strong, we've got like increased chaos damage, 150%. We've got elemental pin, all this stuff. My build can handle all of that. There's no expedition shattering downside mods. Right here, I'm gonna try and get this little armor chest. And now we're coming on to the Great Beach of Normandy. And here, we're not going to focus on too much in terms of the remnants. We're just going to try and get flags. This one, again, is a downside. We don't want rare chests. Those make our boots less likely to be white. Immune to chaos, rarity, and chests. And normally, I do this a lot faster. I mean, I would already be like maybe halfway or even more through my detonation chain, but I'm just like going a little bit more carefully to be deliberate with the explanation. Okay, so we did the whole beach. We've got almost every flag. Now I'm just going to creep out here and just like get a few extra things just because we can, right? I don't really care that whole much about it. Okay, we're all set. So now, as you do these over and over, you start to get a sense of remembering what your detonation chain was, which is really important. Unless your build is somehow like super, super tanky and there's no way an Expedition Logbook is going to kill you, when you add these mods, it doesn't matter how powerful my guy is, at least this character, this Deadeye, I can die in this, and I will die if I don't do it right. What I like to do is just before detonating, I do one last check of my remnants. I was pretty careful as I picked them, so I'm confident. But you want to make sure that in the the dark blue remnant modifiers, you don't have something that would brick your logbook or make you die. Amelioration is on. We're going to hit detonate, and we're going to run to the end of the chain here. Just going to ignore these. And we're just going to go like right here. And basically, this is the best part. You just get to AFK for a little while. I have found you really don't want to fight them as you go, especially with a build that deals a lot of good AoE and that benefits from a lot of monsters being on the board with heralds and such. And the reason for that is that the chaining effects of your skills will cause damage that goes around some of the runic monsters that have shields or that reflect and able to kill whole piles, whereas if you were just dealing with one section of monsters at a time, it's going to be a lot more difficult to kill them, and you're a lot more likely to die. So we should see that chain coming up the beach here. There they are. When it gets to the very end, I'm going to go to the end of my chain and work my way backwards. The reason I like to do it that way is that I am guaranteed that all bombs have gone off. But also, what you're seeing is the most powerful monsters first. And when you do like 200 of these at once, you're going to have a moment where you picked a mod and you didn't realize it. And if you go back to front, you'll realize it right away, and you can back out of your logbook or make an adjustment or whatever you want to do. If you are killing as you go, you're going to run into that mod unexpectedly in the middle of the logbook, and it's probably going to kill you or brick you or whatever it is. Okay, I think they've all gone off. Here we go. Now for the fun part. Lots of killing. Some tactics here. Always move. Never stop moving. And the most effective movement to prevent death is serpentine patterns. Imagine you're running away from a crocodile in southern Florida. Crocodiles have a hard time changing directions. You just want to go back and forth and never stop moving. You also don't want to retrace your steps. As little as possible, do not retrace the steps you've taken. Otherwise, their little platform bombs are more likely to hit you. There we go. We're all done. I should mention, if you have the music on, when the expedition is going and there are still active monsters, the music is really, really intense. You can kind of hear this heavy drums and stuff. When you successfully cleared the last monster, the music will settle down. You hear that difference? So now we're in this, the kind of vaping town music, and that means we've cleared all monsters and things are safe. So now we'll go through and loot. We'll ID as inventory gets full and, get the rewards. All right, I've just finished an expedition run here. I wanted to really quickly show how I go about looting these, and also like what my filter blade looks like and why for these, so you can be more efficient with assessing your loot and maximizing your time in kind of going through all the loot that's on the ground, because of course most of it you're going to be ignoring. So what do we find and what do we do with it? So first of all, in my filter blade, and I can link my filter below, I kind of have everything you would expect. The thing that is highly customized are the bases, especially the weapon armor bases for boots, and then the Flasks and Charms bases. So here's what I've done for this. In Filter Blade, they have this little control tiering section with, if you're not familiar with it, it's very powerful and it's worth getting familiar with. And I want to control things in such a way that I always see all boots, because every boot that drops in this area is going to be item level 82. Whether it is white, blue, or rare, it's going to be good. So what I do is I go to boots, I take the rank C brush, and I label all boots as rank C, and I have nothing else labeled as rank C. Then I can go into normal magic visibility and say rank C bases. I want to see them all. If they're 82, I want you to make a sound, and I want it to have a mini map icon so I don't miss them. Outside of that, like My other rare stuff that I'm targeting is customized, but it's pretty standard. I think I made a quick list here for this season. I'm grabbing ES-based armor pieces and helms. I'm grabbing sea glass spears, assorted gloves for recombination, things like that. But boots are the big one. The other like kind of custom thing I'm doing here that might be unusual is Flasks and Charms. We talked about Flasks in the opening, but if a Flask is item level 83, it can hit some of those highest affixes on both the prefix and suffix. It can be really good. Also, Flasks with quality can salvage into baubles, which if you bauble all these up before selling, that can be really useful. Same thing with charms. I only want to see stone, silver, thawing, amethyst, golden. If it's got quality, that's fantastic. And if it's over 71, I like it because it can roll some of the good affixes. Okay, after that, what do I do with the loot? So white boots is straightforward. We just keep them. Blue boots, let me grab a couple pairs here. I'll usually do this as I go because my inventory will fill up. I will ID them, and I will bring them up to a regal unless they have already rolled movement speed. Bom, bom, bom. And we look for movement speed. There's a 15. No good. These three I'll drop. Let me grab a few more. That's it. Oh, ornate greaves. Grab those. Because there's one other thing I want to show here. Bad. And bad. Okay, so the other thing that can happen, and I can show it in my stash, is you could roll boots that don't have movement speed, but they are on a good base. So like an evasion ES base or a plain ES base. And we can take this one for example. So this one is on an evasion ES base, but it doesn't have movement speed, but it does have a tier 1 almost perfect lightning resist. And these you can save for the almighty recombinator. And you can recombinate them with a 30% boot that is on a bad base, and you'll usually have about a 20% chance to roll the 30% movement speed and your tier 1 affix onto a new 2 property boot that has a chance to be on your good base. So that's a really cool thing to do with boots that don't hit movement speed, but that are on a good base and they have some other good property on them. I do carry some alchemists, and I like to hit things that can high roll and craft into really good stuff. And then, of course, I have a set of rares that I just slam and go. Again, with the recombinator, like these gloves hit tier 8 lightning. I believe that's one short of perfect. I might hang on to these and recombinate them with other gloves. And yeah, it's another way to kind of squeeze value out of some of the items you're grabbing here. The last thing I'll say is regarding the expedition materials themselves. So, generally speaking, throughout the 2 leagues, expedition mats have been like around 1 exalt each for the good ones. Coinage I've seen frequently go up to 2 or 3 exalt per, especially early on. And then the sun artifacts can be traded in for the other artifacts, so those can be worth more. I do think later into seasons we're always going to see this with order artifacts, which are starting to climb in value, but they are really, really common. And the artifacts are the currency for the recombinator. So as people start getting into higher end crafting or just trying to make use of all their crap that's in their stash, the recombinator can be really, really powerful. Very quickly, and I know this seems like super detailed, but it could be helpful for some. Come in and show how I organize things. So a folder called Crafting Bases. And oops, I dump all the white boots in here. And then I have a random recombination tab, which is empty. Did a nice session last night. And then I have a boots recombination tab. Good. So you can do that throughout the expedition if you have the recombinator in mind. And just make a space in your stash for keeping your recom boots organized and your random item recoms organized. Alright, that pretty much sums up everything I wanted to cover. This video turned out to be an absolute anthology, which I did not intend, but I'm working on what type of content I want to create and what value it serves to everyone. So let me know what you think in the comments. Feel free to be honest, and again, please call me out on any bits of information that need some improvement. Once again, I'm on Twitch, and we have a Discord. Come find us, come play with us. Thanks everyone for watching. An unusual object you'll find in Expedition is in the Lush Isle zone on the beaches. Every Lush Isle has 2 main beaches. You'll see them, they look like this. and like this, you'll find these really strange objects that look like this. They're kind of these pulsing, dark, rocky things. And if you blow a bomb on them, they turn into a chest type called a beast skin. I have a feeling this is like future content, but for now, the beast skin will drop you 1 gem. And I have had that gem be a level 20 gem multiple times. So I like to look for them. They're fun, and they drop good gems. So here's the beast skin, now detonated. And if we click, you'll notice there's nothing on the ground. Holding Alt. We're up to level 18 skill gem. So that's it with the beast skins.